Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host. This is Tara Reade, and I have a very special guest. This is a special edition of the Politics of Survival. I have award-winning Canadian journalist Ava Bartlett live from Ukraine. Ava, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Good morning, Tara.
Yes, it's early. You got up early for me. Thank you. It's later.
I get up early anyway, but yeah, you're welcome.
All right. So everyone stateside and in Europe is worried about you because apparently the Ukrainian military decided there's a website that puts you on a kill list, and it's horrendous. And there's other journalists on this list. And I was wondering if you could just start out talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a list that was formed many years ago, I think in 2014, I believe it was. And it's effectively a hit list for any dissenting voice. And there are thousands of names on it. And I would stress and emphasize that, we should also very much be concerned for Ukrainians themselves, because in the democracy that is Ukraine, if you are a dissenting voice of any sort, or not even a dissenting voice, but if you are somebody who's shown any sort of support towards the Donbass republics, even as innocuous as a taxi driver taking a pensioner from the Donetsk People's Republic to wherever they go in Ukraine to get their pension, you can end up on this list. So wow. You will have it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's crazy enough that a journalist, because journalists should not be targeted for doing their profession.
No, journalism is not a crime.
Yeah. But there have been Ukrainian opposition members put on the list, and and civilians as well. And so on this list, they'll put your name, they'll put any detail they can get, including like your home address, your telephone number, etc. And people have died after being put on the list. So, we could say it's a coincidence, but I highly doubt that.
You were actually, it's not been in the mainstream news. And in fact, as you know, you saw a video clip that I did because I was very concerned about it. And then you saw other people, trying to individually just lift up the fact that this was happening. But the only media I saw in Indy, who's with us, who's producing and engineering right now from INN. Indy, could you put up the picture of that, the slide? Is RT International was the only media company that I've seen, at least, that has dealt with the kill list. Indy, do you have that?
So what I can say to that is, well, Tara, you are aware of the NBC, we'll put in parentheses, journalist, who smeared not only myself, but it was 12 people in her smear, including Patrick Lancaster, who's lived in the Donetsk People's Republic for since, I don't know, I think he's lived here since 2014, maybe before, maybe slightly after, but point being, he's lived here a number of years. And he's done some incredibly courageous reporting from on the ground, putting himself at risk. And, she had the audacity to basically say his reports are contrived, that the people that he's shown, unfortunately, in this type of area, not in this type of reporting, you will be showing dead bodies,
Right.
She had the audacity to say effectively that the reports he showed, including dead bodies, were staged. So it's disgusting.
That is
from her office, her comfortable office, wherever she's based, and him sweating and putting his life at risk, reporting, to show the truth about what these people here, where I am now, have been enduring for 8 years. 8 years of killing by Ukraine.
14,000 Russian nationals murdered, by neo-Nazi brigades. Russian propaganda efforts aided by pro-Kremlin content creators research finds. So you were talking about this NBC hit, and I made the point publicly that no Western media covered that a journalist that holds an American passport and a Canadian passport is on a Ukrainian kill list, and not NBC, not CBS, not CNN, not any of the Great Britain stations like BBC have talked about this, but rather a couple of days ago, NBC did a hit piece with you in it, featuring you and other fine investigative journalists, simply because, they're not doing the State Department, talking points, which is apparently if you're not doing NATO talking points or the US talking points, it's like you don't exist, or worse, they attack you.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
find
Well,
that
I mean,
that's true?
yeah, this is something I've experienced since I would say late 2016 for my reporting from Syria, because again, what I was reporting from Syria did not jive with the official narrative, which was frankly bullshit, pardon my language, but it was propaganda coming from the West, and it did not match with reality, which I was seeing on the ground. When Aleppo was liberated in late 2016, Western media said Aleppo fell, and I had just left Aleppo and I was in New York City giving some lectures, and I saw on TV and I was like, are you crazy? Like, Aleppo has been liberated from Al-Qaeda. This is supposed to be America's enemy. And you're saying Aleppo fell because now women like you and me can walk in the streets freely? I mean, it's ridiculous. But I just want to make one more point, Tara, is just prior to the NBC smear, CBC, which is Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, so Canadian state-funded media, we have to make that point because, you know, they always make the point about Russian state-funded media, reached out to me and tried to get me to come onto their program, which, you know, I don't give them the time of day because they don't deserve my time, frankly. I'm happy to talk with any honest voice, no matter how large or small their audience, but these unscrupulous prostitutes don't deserve our time. I would extend that to anybody, including yourself. But CBC reached out to me, and they here's the interesting thing. They reached out to me to say, we want to do an interview with you about the fact that you participated in a tribunal on Ukraine's war crimes. The interesting thing is, the only way that they could have known about that is if they had seen the kill list entry on me, which specified that. Now, the entry on me was actually created a few years ago, but they've updated it since. And they updated it to include that I participated as a journalist in this tribunal in Moscow in like a month or so ago, in April, I think. And I just gave my observations of what I'd seen from here in the Donbass. And so the only way the CBC hack could have known was that he saw the entry on the kill list, because I did not publicize this on my social media. I didn't have a link at the time or whatever. So he, in his email to me, did not express concern about the fact that I, a Canadian, a fellow colleague, was on a kill list. Instead, he wanted me to he wanted to entrap me into talking about my participation in this tribunal. And you know how that would have gone. He would have cherry-picked a soundbite, said this Russian regime apologist, blah, 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 but not at all talked about the fact that I could be wiped out because I'm on this
or disappeared. Indeed, do you have that you have that tweet? I believe I pulled it. If you could put it up for us on the screen. CBC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So for my audience, this is what she was talking about. So instead of actually discussing the fact that a journalist is on a kill list, they want to do a hit piece on her, and entrap her. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's so frustrating. And that we have so many, I won't even call them journalists. They're stenographers for the Empire, right? Because they're not doing the work. You're doing the work. You know, Max Blumenthal, the Gray Zone, is doing the work. And then you've got Wyatt Reade doing the work. And all of them get labeled as Russian state affiliated media when they're actually on the ground and trying to get the truth. It's frustrating.
So, but, you know, I have to say that I don't know what the CBC has produced. Their timeline was kind of vague. They didn't give me a deadline like Brandy of NBC. But as for Brandy and NBC, as you know well, like her attempt to smear flopped massively, as they always do. Actually, I would say that my colleagues would agree that whenever, and yourself, you've experienced the smears. I would say that whenever the smears happen, you find more support than ever, because people like, you know, inquisitive minds. Basically, I feel like those who go along with the smear have already made up their mind, and they're either extremely brainwashed or they're part of the problem. But then there are other people that maybe just never came across the person that issued the subject, and they're like, oh, well, that's interesting. I'll look at that. And oh, well, actually, this person that you're smearing makes a lot of sense. So, thanks NBC for the publicity. It backfired massively. And the
Yeah.
other point I would make about that smear is that, and I did so on Twitter, is that, this is 2022. And Brandy seems to still think that the White Helmets are a valiant rescue operation when we all know that they're a propaganda construct massively funded by the West that works exclusively with terrorists in Syria. So she, outed herself as either supremely stupid or supremely complicit or both by endorsing the White Helmets narrative in 2022.
Well, I like the way, and I'm not sure, was it you or someone else I saw that highlighted that her only past writing experience was about luxury bathrooms or something? Maybe that was on your clean.
That was, I did say that, but that was actually about a prior smear, but it's
prior
smear. Yeah, but it's
Right.
essentially, it's the same kind of personality, because
Yeah.
to my knowledge, I mean, I think you've looked at Brandy's writings, and
Right.
I did, and I didn't see any about Ukraine or Donbass. I didn't
No.
see any prior knowledge of this area. So why that the bathroom journalist I mentioned is relevant is that some years ago, The Guardian got this woman, Olivia Solon, who's based in California, I think, to write a piece, a story, as she called it, on Vanessa Beeley, my colleague and good friend, and myself. And she sent us also an email full of incriminating questions, also asking how we qualify as journalists, etc. And when I looked into her, she didn't know anything about Syria. Her experience was writing about fashion and shoes and toilets in LA, so that's why I was like, this is the quality they're dredging up. But that's what they do. They bring these people. It doesn't matter if they have any sort of knowledge about the subject matter. And then these people send these incredibly offensive emails at us demanding our attention and participation. But the thing is, they don't realize, we're not that dumb, and we're not that naive. We've been through this before, and like, they don't, as I said before, deserve our time. So I think, like, I know a lot of people would say, like, we'll just go on, maybe they'll give you time, but no, they won't. They'll never give you a fair shot. Their aim is not to be a news source. Their aim is to manipulate your thoughts and to manipulate your perception of a particular event into their very narrow, preconceived idea, which is, of course, aligned with the warmongers. It's not like this individual journalist's thoughts. And that's another difference. Like, you are an independent journalist. I'm an independent journalist. And when I go to a place like here, I have ideas about things I want to write about, but I don't have a script written because I need to talk to people. And then I need to see what they want to tell me. And then that's when I start deciding how to write things. But if they deign to come here, they'd already have the script written, and they'd just be looking at the photo.
They have to go within those parameters.
Absolutely.
And not outside, right? Because of what they're paid to do. And it wouldn't get past their editors, even if they tried, probably.
No, Tara, if I may, I'm sorry, but if I may,
go ahead.
In 2017, I was giving a lecture in Montreal, and 2 Canadian press students came to that lecture only to get their soundbite and smear me, which they did. But anyway, after that, this wonderful Canadian journalist, Junaid Khan, came up to me and said, "Hey, Eva, I was in Iraq when the US invaded. And, back then he was saying, like, we didn't have, like, internet wasn't a thing there, or a thing in general. And he made a really, like, a lot of effort to get his article back to his Canadian La Presse editor, Agnes Gruda, the woman who wrote the hit piece on me. And he said she demolished it from like a 1,400 word article to like 300-400 words, completely changed the tone from what he had honestly written about Iraqis not welcoming the invasion to the opposite. So like, here's a guy that was actually working with an establishment media, and they, like you said, his words could not get past them. And by the way, this woman took issue with the fact that I wear, generally don't have it now, I'm not sure where it is, a bracelet of the sovereign flag of Syria, because I recognize Syria's sovereignty, and Syria is very dear to me. But anyway, she took issue with that and said no respectable or credible journalist would ever wear that. So when I went on her Facebook, I found her in Libya holding a terrorist rifle.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Jihadi Agnes.